It's Monday, the 29th of November 2021. Welcome to the Fear and Greed Business Headlines, where we give you the top 5 business stories you need to know in just 5 minutes. I'm Michael Thompson, and good morning, Sean Aylmer.
Morning, Michael.
All right, 5 stories in 5 minutes. Let's get into it. Story number 1 today, big one, Sean. Global markets have been spooked by the outbreak of a new variant of the coronavirus, with commodities around the world absolutely tumbling.
Yes, everyone's worried about the Omicron coronavirus variant. Futures markets in Australia suggest the S&P ASX 200 will fall around 1.5% today, following its similar drop on Friday. It's all because of fears that the variant discovered in South Africa is now filtrating throughout the rest of the world. There were 2 visitors to New South Wales that were confirmed with the variant yesterday afternoon. Now, over the weekend, the MSCI All-Country World Index benchmark, which measures global share markets, fell 2.2%. Wall Street was down more than 2%. European markets were off almost 4%. Japan was down more than 3%. Also, commodity markets are falling. Copper, nickel, aluminium, they all fell, but the big drop came in oil prices. Brent crude was down more than 11%. How worried should we be? Well, we should be alert but not panicking at the moment. Many countries, including Australia, have placed travel bans on the 9 African countries where the Omicron strain has been detected. Prime Minister Scott Morrison at this point said there's no change to the national COVID plan. And the World Health Organization has said that Omicron has more mutations than Delta, though some medical experts in the last 24 hours said it's not quite as harmful as Delta. We just don't know what's going on, and that's why markets have sold off and people are worried about the economy.
Okay, big story. That's story number 1 today. On to story number 2, and you mentioned Prime Minister Scott Morrison. Yesterday, he announced new legislation that aims to hold Facebook, Twitter, and other social media platforms responsible for some of the harmful content that appears on them, and really aims to impose the same legal liabilities as mainstream publishers.
Yes, the government says the changes will be some of the strongest in the world, and it aims to tackle damaging comments from anonymous online trolls. As he put it, Mr. Morrison doesn't want the online world to be a wild west where bots and bigots and trolls and others are anonymously going around harming people. Fair enough. The devil will be in the detail of this one, but it's a very big move. The Prime Minister said he'd be lobbying the US for similar legislation. Social media players will be required to have a standardised complaint system. Also, companies will have to disclose details of trolls to victims. Big change this one, Michael. The social media players won't like it. However, the publishers will love it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's good to see Australia taking a stand on something that has the potential to do so much damage to people. Story number 3, Sean, a massive weekend for shoppers and retailers with the Black Friday sales running through till today. There were also official statistics that show spending was surging well before the weekend as well.
Yes, let's start with those first. The retail spending rose by nearly 5% during October as restrictions eased in New South Wales, the ACT and Victoria. In fact, spending is now back to pre-Delta levels. Lots of good spending on clothing and footwear. Department stores had a good time. Eating out jumped significantly. Now, retail spending is now 5% higher than a year ago and well above the pre-pandemic trend. Why? Because people built up savings during the pandemic and are paying less for home loans due to lower interest rates. So they've got cash on hand. I don't know whether you went shopping over the weekend, Michael, but it was very, very busy. And anecdotally, shops had a really strong weekend as people took advantage of the Black Friday sales.
And of course, Sean, the action wasn't just in the shops. This leads us neatly on to story number 4. It was a record weekend for auctions as well across the country. How did it go?
Well, solid, but not spectacular. Sydney held 1,577 auctions, according to CoreLogic, and recorded a clearance rate of 71%, which is pretty much at the low end of recent months. Bad weather didn't help in that city. Melbourne held nearly 1,900 auctions and recorded a preliminary clearance rate of 69%, again at the low end. Canberra, however, did really well, 88% clearance rate. Adelaide was at 79% and Brisbane was at 74%. Prices are definitely rising, but nowhere near as much as they were. Melbourne and Sydney are getting hit hardest.
Okay, on to story number 5. Last one. This is pretty extraordinary. The list of the 50 highest paid executives, according to the Financial Review. As is normal, the boss of Macquarie Group came in at number 1, but the biggest pay rise went to the boss of Kogan.com, and it's a massive increase.
Sure is. Russell and Kogan's pay jumped $8.4 million to $9 million. He's now the country's 6th highest paid chief executive. The boss of Commonwealth Bank is 15th. Russell & Kogan is 6th, and that's even though the company barely makes the top 200. Its share price now is at a 20-month low, including a near 5% drop on Friday. Now, Chair Greg Ritter said he was delighted Mr. Kogan was well paid because it meant shareholders were being rewarded. Kogan.com's share price surged during the pandemic, got to $25. It's now back to $8. This does not pass the pub test. And just quickly, as you mentioned, the boss of Macquarie Bank, Shamara Wickramanayaka, was number one at 16 million. Number two was CSL boss Paul Perot at almost 14 million. Also, the bosses of Goodman Group, Newcrest Mining and BHP, they all took home more than 10 million. Not bad.
Not bad at all. That's our top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. Thank you very much, Sean.
Thanks, Michael.
It's Monday, the 29th of November, 2021. Remember to hit follow on the podcast, and if you'd like something a little bit longer, you can find our full daily podcast called Fear and Greed on your podcast platform or at fearandgreed.com.au, where you can also find our free daily newsletter. I'm Michael Thompson, and that was the Fear and Greed Business Headlines. Have a great day.